This meeting is being sponsored by the Qualicum Beach Residents Association and is being video recorded. Future public access will be available to you on YouTube. We realize this meeting was promoted as an all candidates meeting. Despite our best efforts for that to happen, that will not be the case today. You will notice on stage a vacant position intended for the mayoral candidate, Brian Weiss. Unfortunately, he has chosen not to attend. In addition, Mr. Robert Filmer will not be here due to a scheduling conflict. Further, we have not received any confirmation from Mr. Scott Harrison, and this would represent 3 out of 5 people on the current council. Dave Willey and Gene Young, candidates for council, have not informed us of their intentions today.
Gene is right here. Gene is here. Happy to see you. Yeah.
Sorry, thank you. Now, the good news is the mayoral candidate on stage, Tunis Westbrook, is here to join us. Also, the following councillor candidates joining us are Mr. Stan Beach, Mr. Peter Kent, Ms. Doreen McKay Dunn, Mr. John C. Phillips, Ms. Ann Skipsey, and Ms. Petronella Vandervolk, and also Gene Young. So welcome to you. I'd like to ask you to stand for the national anthem being performed by Sue Boyce of the Village Voices. Thank you.
Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all of us command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land, glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
Thank you, Sue, for that rendition. Finally, it's my pleasure to introduce Mary Ellen Campbell. Mary Ellen is not affiliated with Qualicum Beach Residents Association or any other residents association. We are fortunate she agreed to serve as our moderator. I'll now pass things over to Mary Ellen. Thank you.
Thank you, Lance. I am honored to be moderator for today's event. While I am not a member of the Qualicum Beach Residents Association, or as you indicated, Lance, any resident association, and my sense is he's probably the membership coordinator for bringing that up. Thank you. I do thank the QBRA for inviting me today and for agreeing to my many demands regarding today's format. This is my 3rd time moderating a panel of candidates. The first was for federal candidates at Knox United Church, and the second was for municipal candidates held at the Parksville Community Center. It was the organizers at Knox, and some of them I actually saw here this afternoon, who introduced me to the format we are following today. Here's the format we will be following. The candidates for mayor will begin with opening remarks of 2 minutes in length. This will be followed by 6 questions, each with a reply 4 minutes in length. These questions have not been received by the candidates. The candidates will have closing remarks of 3 minutes in length. We will then ask questions from the audience with a reply of 2 minutes in length. Then we will ask each candidate for council to introduce themselves 4 minutes in length. These candidates will come forward in alphabetical order based on surname. How do we do this? First, we have our timekeeper. The timekeeper will wave the yellow sheet indicating 30 seconds. And Michael, I'll have you wave it if you will. 30 seconds remaining in time, and then he will wave the red sheet, meaning stop. Well done, Michael. And just so you know, the time will start when the candidate starts to speak. Second, you will find paper and pen, or if you have not, Robert. And where is Robert? Robert is right here to my left. Robert has the recipe cards and pens for the written questions. If you have not submitted your written question, indicate to Robert with a wave of the hand, or if you have your question and you want it to go into the basket, wave to Robert. He will be going up and down the outside aisles to pick up the questions. Lorna Miller and Noreen Ballantyne at the table at the back will accept the questions. Let's talk expectations. I know what I'm doing. The candidates know what they're doing. The timekeeper knows what he's doing. The women picking up the questions know what they're doing. Who is left? Yes, you, the audience. These are the expectations of the audience. No applause until the event is over. No heckling, no sighing, no rolling of eyes. You get the idea? You are not here to challenge me. You are not here to challenge the candidates. You are not here to challenge the timekeeper. You are not here to challenge the women who will be picking up the questions. If you are unhappy with any aspect of today, be a volunteer. Be the change that is needed. Finally, I want to offer a few thank yous to Dan, probably the happiest, friendliest, I don't want to say, maybe I shouldn't say the happiest, friendliest person at the town of Qualicum Beach, but he's a pure joy to work with. So if you ever have to rent a room, you will be working with Dan. So thank you, Dan, for making this effortless for us. We are no, it's not televising. We are recording the event. And we have William, and it may be that we will have Nick later. And so what they have indicated to us is by the nature of the temperature of the room, they may have to stop the recording for up to 3 minutes. So when I get the hand wave, or if you see them waving, we're going to stop whatever we're doing, give the camera whatever time it needs to cool down and proceed. The good news is when we stop for the camera, you can clap. You can heckle, you can roll your eyes, you can stomp your feet. That will be your time to do that, and then we're going right back to where I want you, okay? And so finally, I want to thank all of you. What a joy it is to look out into a room full of people that chose to come on a Sunday afternoon, a gorgeous day. You could have been on the golf course. You could have been in the garden. You could have been home watching sports like all members of my family, but you chose to come. You being here today is significant, and we thank you for that. So, ready? You can breathe, but breathe quietly, okay? Let's get started. Fortunas. To help people who may be new to our community, Please give us a brief introduction of yourself with your key reasons for running for mayor. Time, 2 minutes.
Thank you, Marianne. And before I start, I just want to acknowledge as well that we are in the traditional territory of the Coast Salish people, in particular the Qualicum First Nation, our neighbors. I am not surprised to see so many of you here today. I've always been impressed with your involvement and dedication to the management of our unique community and our future. Those who came before us established a plan to ensure that Qualicum Beach would evolve in an exceptional place to live. And in 26 years on council, I have always tried to follow in their footsteps and will continue to do so. I'm committed to maintain high standards, prevent chaotic growth, and commercial sprawl. I'm also committed to fulfill your desire and expectations as laid out in our official community plan. To keep Qualicum Beach's charm, with all its beauty and quality of life embedded in nature, because our little town is an exceptional treasure that most Canadians and visitors would attest to. My goals would be to create a community-owned primary healthcare center that would attract doctors and nurses, to ensure that new development is of high quality and matches the town's character and high standards, conserving and protecting our farmland and urban forests, including the estate properties, become focused and utilize evolving climate change technology, develop East Village and the former bus garage site, and develop affordable and suitable housing on town-owned properties, and ensure that taxpayer value with excellent and efficient municipal infrastructure and services, because I'm very aware of taxation fatigue and I want to help manage our town's finances in a suitable and cost-effective fashion. Thank you.
Good, thank you. Question 1, 4-minute response. You have served as mayor. Please give us your perspective on the role of mayor, how it differentiates from that as councillor, and the mayor's expectations of councillors.
I've learned much over those 26 years. And actually, I think it was a good experience for me to be a councillor and actually find out that councillors can do a lot more than what perhaps I thought in the past. So I'm going to be more delegating authorities to councillors. We are a team. I only have one voice as a mayor, and I have the influence of advancing the plans, and strategic plans, and the issues that the council brings forward. That's my job. That's how I see it. I've always felt that way, but I feel much stronger about that now, that each council member has an important role to play as a team and not do anything to blindside them. I think I should do everything I can to make them feel wanted and important and share the limelight with all of them. Thank you.
Question 2, 4 minutes. Thinking about the present council, have taxpayers been well represented and well served by the present council? Some may use words such as toxic, divisive, condescending, and lack of transparency to describe the present council. What are your suggestions for creating a cohesive council?
I think I've always put the needs of our residents first. In everything we do in our town, we need to listen to our residents, hear our residents, and respond to their needs. I've always taken great pride that when I get a call, I answer them personally as soon as I can. Actually, the first term as a mayor, I asked staff, whatever I'm doing, if somebody comes to the front counter to see me, call me. I may be busy, but I want to see them and set an appointment with them so I realize that they have been seen and heard, and I will follow up. And the same when I used to go shopping with my wife, Jenny. After a while, she won't let me go shopping anymore because people go, I have a question for you. And then you just stay there for a while. But you know what? That's because people want to engage with us. They can see us. And that's the beauty of a small town, where people recognize who you are and you are responsible for them. And you'll feel the pain of taxation when you're charging them too much and you have to explain why the taxes are going up. To answer your question, this past year has been horrendous. With the cost increases, first as a result of supply chain demands with the COVID, and of course inflation, it hasn't been easy to hold the line on taxes. But I think we can try again and make sure that every expenditure is scrutinized before we approve it. I think this council has tried hard to stay within the lines of what we think we can afford, and so we'll continue doing that. We also have a very capable staff, And when you look outside and you look at the infrastructure that we have, there's a huge cost of maintaining our infrastructure. And what we're starting to focus on more with this council is our natural assets. I mean, we have our roads and our water lines and pipes and all the stuff you never see. But you see our infrastructure. And one of the best examples, I think, is our rain garden at the bottom of West Crescent and Memorial, where in 2013, when I went to a conference to get an award for our community planning, it was the first time I heard about these atmospheric rivers. And I came back to council and I said, this is a new term. Listen, you're going to hear it lots more. And so we started to look at how can we divert the streams of water going straight down the ocean to filter them first, because when people break on the roads, copper and other material will end up in the water and it's detrimental to our fish and other wildlife. So we built that rain garden. At first people thought it was just a gadget, but it actually works and we need to do more of that. Thank you.
Question 3, 4 minutes. It is widely accepted that we are in a climate crisis. What are the most critical consequences facing the town of Qualicum Beach? What would be your top priorities to address the crisis while still protecting our natural assets?
In about 2012, I got a call from a young lady from the elementary school who was at the Qualicum Beach Elementary in the class of Miss Jody Waters. And she wrote me this letter, and I thought her teacher must have written, or her parents, but it was her letter. I went to school, and I sat down with them in a circle on the carpet. They were grade 3 and 4, and they said, you know, we heard from our teacher that there was a big pile of garbage, like mountains of islands of garbage floating out in the ocean. And we want to know what we can do to deal with that. So I went to the class, and a reporter came with me, and I said, so who wrote that letter? And she wrote the letter, and I said, did you do that on your own? She said, yes, I saw a documentary, and I saw all the garbage in the ocean. And I said, so how did that make you feel? Well, it didn't make us feel very good. As a result, we became garbage picker-uppers. We got these little things, handles to pick up litter, and we went all around the playground and around town a little bit, and around the beaches too, and identify where this stuff came from. And then they went to the stores and asked them if they could find a way to avoid having all this plastic packing, because it gets into the waters, into the fish, and into our food chain, actually. So they were very keen, and they end up, and the next step was they built they painted garbage cans that had messages about looking after the environment. Then they built up another string of footprints, ecological footprints, that you can still see on some of the paths near the elementary school. And it has messages. And it says, don't be mean, be green. And I thought they were so impressive that I asked them if they could come to a regular council meeting. Councilor Avers was on council at the time. And they all came, all of them, 20 of them came. And they all read the little message into the microphone. And I said, afterwards, I want you to stand here behind where council sits. And when they all stood there, I asked, do you know why I asked you to come and stand behind here? And they didn't know. I said, because someday you'll be sitting here. Now we got a group of youth from about 16, 17-year-olds for Friday for the Future. And they sat at our town hall. They sat on the windowsill, but it goes right down to the bottom, for a whole year, every Friday from 9 to 3, protesting the lack of action that we, as a town, as a province, as a country, we're not taking. So I was so impressed, and all of us were, I think, that we invited them to a committee of the whole meeting where they presented us with their concerns. And so we need to look into what they're saying, and I think we can help them. And the three major sources, of course, is our transportation. And we need to do more about public transportation, where people can have another mode of transport, whether it's public transit, electric vehicles, scooters, walking, bicycles. I bought an electric bike. It's great. Get used to it. You know, and not only for the environment, but instead of filling up my tank every week, it's now once a month. So it actually saves you money. So you can do all these good things for many other reasons. And so the other thing is buildings, where we want to have environmentally friendly, sustainable buildings, green buildings, to help to reduce greenhouse gas. I think there's a number of things we can do to help owners to perhaps convert their gas facilities for the heat pumps into electric. We had a presentation from David Eby recently at our Courtyard Cafe, where he identified the fact that we have lots of electricity, which is from a much cleaner source, and convert your natural gas heat pump to electric. These are all the things that we can all participate in. Thank you.
Thank you. Question 4, 4 minutes. The OCP, the Official Community Plan. What is it? How is it created? And how would you balance the intent of the Official Community Plan with the demands to amend it?
Well, like I said earlier, the OCP got together because about 2,000 of you responded to our quality of life survey. And it really is about quality of life. What do we want in town? What do we don't want in town? And I think we made some departures from that. I think too frequent departures from the OCP. It's not a guide. It's a bylaw. It's an official community plan bylaw. It goes through 3 readings. It has a public hearing and adoption. So any departure should be followed by or preceded by a very rigorous public discourse before we make any changes like that. It's totally disrespectful to expect people who have worked on it in some cases a year and a half on committees, on meeting at kitchen table sessions in people's home, led by some of our staff. Some were not administrative staff, some were work for the Parks Department or Public Works Department, who were very keen on participating, because this is their community too. So our staff has actually played a key role in promoting and advancing this official community plan. And it clearly lays out where our development is supposed to happen and how. And at times, as a mayor, I've had people come in and say, we'd like to build a fast food restaurant. And I said, well, we can't prevent you. That's against the law. But we have rules. Like the signage will be an issue, no drive-through, and you have to have table service. But I said, more importantly, you're not really welcome here. Because about 80% say, we don't want these fast foods restaurants and other things like that. My daughters used to be upset with me. Why do we have to go to Parksville to go to McDonald's? Now they're happy because that food is not that good for you. So now they're actually thinking, good thinking, Dad. Thank you.
Question 5, 4 minutes. The residents of Qualicum Beach enjoy a high quality of life. Current and planned development is putting intense pressure on our infrastructure, housing, roads, green spaces, family doctors, and more. How do we create balance?
You know, the issue about doctors comes up a lot. And if you read probably next Wednesday's newspaper, where all candidates were asked to answer 3 questions. And one was about what do you think is the most pressing issue in Qualicum Beach? And I know we talked about climate change, we talked about housing, but the most pressing issue that I hear about is the shortage of doctors. People have lost their family physician or are expected to happen soon. So what I think we could do, and I've talked with our former councillor, now MLA Adam Walker, and also with David Eby when he was in town, that if we could come up with a site, and we do have land, come up with a site where we could build a community-owned primary healthcare center that would attract doctors and maybe have incentives for accommodation. And perhaps we need to hire a recruitment coordinator like they did in Creston, and they were very successful with that. So there are ways for us. I mean, who wouldn't want to practice in Qualicum Beach? But they don't want to set up a shop like they used to when they started doctoring after university 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. They want to have a life. But if they come into a center and a true team approach, where they can practice their medicine with nurse practitioners, with other healthcare providers, I think people would be attracted to that. They have urgent care in Parksville. They have emergency medicine in both Port Alberni and Nanaimo. And I think we should take advantage of the fact that we have this wonderful place where people could practice medicine. And I actually thought of a place where we could accommodate for housing as well, which is a key thing for many people, to have a place to live, at least on a temporary basis until they find their feet. Thank you.
So we're at our last question. The questions from the basket will be coming up shortly. If anyone has a question to put in the basket, Robert? Robert's at the back, so if you just put your hand up, Robert will do so. Okay, and here as well. Thank you so much. Question 6, 4 minutes. We encourage everyone to vote at the advance polls on October 5th or 12th, or on Election Day, October 15th. In addition to voting for mayor and councillors, there will be 2 additional questions on the ballot. The first regarding the size of council, and the second funding for St. Andrew's Lodge. How does council decide which questions should be on the ballot, and what is your position on each of these questions?
You know, that's a really good question. Who asked me that question? Because I'd like to talk to you about that. That should never have happened. Council was told by the St. Andrew's Lodge Cultural and Historical Society that they don't want that question on the ballot. They came to us saying we can restore this building with volunteerism and fundraising. And to put this on the ballot, it seems like there is support to take your money to build this, but for us to take $700,000 of property taxes means we have to collect $1.5 million because we only get to keep about 45%. The rest goes to provincial for education, for the regional district, for the hospital district, library, and so on. So we get to keep 45%. So for us to come up with $700,000, that means $1.5 million. It's not fair. It's not right. It's a question should never be asked. We have an example, many examples in Qualicum Beach of how to come up with a community building program like this one, I think, is becoming. It was with the Heritage Forest, at that time the Property Preservation Society. We never got any funding from the province or the town as far as taxes, except the DCCs for parks. And people get behind it. They build community. It gives them a purpose. It's fun, because the last time, since September 10th, we had a concert at the St. Andrew's Lodge. And they raised, I don't know exactly, $3,000, something like that. And we were sitting there under the trees to get the ocean and the sun setting and that cottage. Now, if that cottage wasn't there, all you see is traffic. And instead, I could envision Miss Little behind the kitchen window going, yes, that's what I wanted this property to be used for. It's a community building exercise. So we didn't want that question, but the majority of council rules, so 3 out of 2, said we need it on the ballot, and that's what happened. But I would vote against it, and I would not ask anybody to vote for it. Thank you.
Nick, before we move into closing remarks, are we okay? 3 minutes? Good, thank you. Closing remarks, 3 minutes.
Okay, time goes fast when you're having fun, but I agree. You know, this is normally my Sunday afternoon golf game. At 19 years of age, I came from Holland on a field trip to assist my education. And I fell in love at Qualicum Beach, and that feeling never left. And I could see that those who came before me wisely established a town plan and set high standards to keep it pristine, prevent chaotic growth, and ensure architecturally aesthetic buildings that would survive the test of time. They attempted to protect the town from commercial sprawl common in large urban centers. Their goal was to ensure that Qualicum Beach would always be a unique residential community and tourist destination where one could find beauty and peace in nature, including fishing and golf. I immediately identified with town's values and philosophy of life. I never saw myself as a politician, but in '96, I became a councillor, followed by a 19 term as mayor. And over the years, I was very proud of the town's citizens and what we accomplished together. So like many of you, I realize that today we are living in a troubled world. When you watch television, our traditions, standards, and sense of humanity is evaporating, in my opinion, for our very eyes. So I have decided to take up the torch again to ensure that our town remains special and does not succumb to cultural regressions and short-sightedness. I support modest growth that matches our town's character, is energy efficient, environmentally sustainable, and within the town-confined urban areas. Historically, you have every right to be pleased with your contribution in regard of our town's wonderful development. After carefully listening to you, and I've been to many doors already, it is my understanding that our goals are similar, and that's what you want to achieve going forward. I've always enjoyed working with you, and I'm proud of what we have accomplished together so far, and I thank you immensely for your past trust. It gave me the opportunity to work closely with a common cause and for so many exceptional people that gave my life meaning and purpose. It has been a privilege and an honor to serve the citizens of Qualicum Beach. And if you grant me another term, I promise to follow your agenda, which is laid out in our OCP, which I truly believe will continue to enhance the future of our great community and the quality of life for people of all ages. Thank you.
Are questions from the audience, please?
Oh, I thought this was my closing remarks.
Those are yours, but we're not quite done.
I thought I was done.
I'm not able to take questions, but the event organizers can, and that would be Pat right here in the front row. There's just... Perfect, thank you. So thank you to the audience for providing your written questions. Michael, each question receives 2 minutes once the speaker begins. Question 1. If elected, how will you advocate for an upgraded skate park? Meaning, what effort will you actually take to make this a reality?
Good question, thank you, because I was just there. I was watching the kids and what they do, and not only on skates, but also on the little bicycles. I don't know how they do it. They are so courageous. So I think the last time we built the skateboard, and I was part of it, was 26 years ago. I helped, actually, because I wasn't a qualified tradesman, I got to run the packer. So to pack the soil down for the base of the skateboard park, which has been in use now for 26 years. But it needs remediation. It needs some finishing, and it needs some additional elements like a bowl, which would scare most of us, but these kids love that kind of stuff. So I think we can do better. And I think as part of the strategic plan, if council agrees, we would see that happen over the next, before the term is over. We saw it before, it kind of got distracted because some people thought we should have a grass, artificial turf, which I don't think is necessary, but I think this is necessary. And I've written a press release actually, and if you don't mind, I can read that to you. I just sent out this morning because I was there last night as well. So this is the latest. You can actually get it before you read it in the paper. The local skate scene has changed and come together recently, partly due to a new generation of younger families of skating parents who now have children learning to skate. We now also have Skull Skates, the most famous and long-running skateboard shop in Canada, located right here on 2nd Avenue. The Qualicum Beach Skateboard Park is important because kids need a local spot to practice and learn and have fun. These days, anything physical to keep them off a screen or street in a major city is a major victory, and we need to support any kid who wants to take on something as challenging as skateboarding. If the spot is not local, kids will not use it. If it's not easy to ride or disrepair, they will not use it either. Our skateboarders can ride almost anything, anywhere, but they are not always welcome everywhere. And the best place to learn is where the conditions are as smooth and perfect as possible. There's enough to overcome without the facility being an abandoned obstacle for learners.
Tunis, thank you.
Okay, that was my last line.
Where will that press release be
Well,
available?
I've sent it to a number of friends who seem to know how to navigate it through social media.
Okay.
And I also sent it to the local newspaper and the Times Colonist.
Okay, so you will definitely get to
Yeah,
see
you
the
get to see
press
the whole
release.
story.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Second question, 2 minutes. Are the candidates for mayor and councillor prepared to revisit the matter of reinstating Oceanside Air to the town-owned airport and be open to listening to the concerns of the citizens of Qualicum Beach?
The answer is yes.
Okay. Michael, did you turn the clock on? Yeah. Next question, 2 minutes. What steps will you take as the mayor to ensure full disclosure and accountability for council financial decision-making?
Well, I don't know of any time where it wasn't disclosed. As far as the campaign, it's all public knowledge. You have to disclose everything, expenses and donations. As far as the town, we have qualified, certified accountants doing our books. They'll answer any question about where the money is spent. We keep accurate accounts. That's their job. We pay good money to have good financial administration. And over the years, as Councillor Avis was the chair of the Finance Committee at one time, I think they do an excellent job to keep track of where your money goes. And we want to make sure you get good value for your tax dollars. I treat it as if it was my own money, and I'm very tight with money. So it should be good for you too. Thank you.
Next question. To be prepared for the 21st century, how should Qualicum Beach provide a good water supply and care for the laburnum wetlands?
I think Qualicum Beach has probably the best water anywhere. And that's why Chartwell wanted to become part of Qualicum Beach. And that's why it could be a temporary measure, but we've provided water to Sandpiper, and they're paying for all the hookups. They're paying a parcel tax. But we have an option in there that if water becomes short for Qualicum Beach residents, they are our #1 customer, then we have to shut the valve. But they give them three years notice. We have water that is now treated with UV, not chlorine, although once in a while we have to give it a shot of chlorine to kill some of the bugs. But we have an ultraviolet system at great expense, but that's why our water tastes so good. It's worth keeping, and that's why I think we have to maintain our distribution system. We have to own our water supply and system, and that's why I think Qualicum Beach is basically one of these unique places where we have control over not only over the water supply, but also over growth. Because as you said earlier, if we allow unlimited growth, not only are we going to be problems with medical services, but also our water and our general carrying capacity. I'm not saying nobody can move in this area. We have in our regional growth strategy, and we're all part of that, between here and Deep Bay, there are 3 areas that have been identified as nodes, like Bowser or Deep Bay and Dunsmuir, where people could build a community just like Qualicum Beach when we started 85 years ago. So I'm not saying you can't all come, you can't come here, but you can't all live in Qualicum Beach. But there are areas around us that can be just as beautiful. Thank you.
Next question. 2 minutes. What would you do to make new development more environmentally friendly?
Well, we get good input from our residents when we have public hearings. We have people who have a professional background in architecture and design and building. And it'll never cease to amaze me how many people from that sector are willing to share their experience with us. So it's not that we have to know everything as a council. We rely on the Advisory Planning Commission. We rely on other professionals to help us be prepared for the future. As I said earlier, to not only have more environmentally sustainable buildings, so-called green buildings, but also save you money, save you on heating, and it's the quality of life that we want. But for us as a council to be experts on design and building is not reasonable. But we do have to have an open mind and listening to the professionals who do. And there are other communities who have gone through the same experience. It's not that we have to invent the wheel here. We can look to other cities, not just in our area, but also in other parts of the country where they've advanced certain skills and techniques to make sure we build more environmentally sustainable projects. Thank you.
Next question. When is the no overnight camping at the beach going to be enforced?
Well, usually we act on a complaint basis. We have an excellent bylaw compliant officer. He does a good job. I've seen him in action, and I'm amazed how he can turn somebody who is not cooperative into a cooperative person. And so that is a terrific skill to have. So we're very fortunate to have the bylaw enforcement that we have. But he also needs to have teeth. And so council has to be clear on what the bylaws and what the rules are so he can actually enforce them. That's why we have signage on the beach about dogs off leash. Not everybody sees those signs. I think they have some kind of visibility challenge where they don't see those signs. But if somebody gets scratched or attacked or bitten by a dog, our bylaw officer can say, well, there is a sign, you're responsible, you're not supposed to have dogs off a leash, especially when it's during the Brand Festival, but any time when there's children on the beach. And not everybody is comfortable with dogs on the beach. And not everybody is comfortable seeing people camp on the beach. But it's not easy to go there every night and make sure that there's nobody parking. But I do know that our bylaw enforcement and our police and the RCMP that are assigned to Qualicum Beach will keep an eye on make sure people are safe. But it is not always easy when housing is so expensive. And staying in a hotel can also be out of reach. And it's very tempting when you see that beach and you can park there and say, let's just quietly stay here. I understand that, but we have to follow the rules. Thank you.
Next question. When I was in journalism school, One of the first things we learned was that if you want to know what's really going on, follow the money. So, who is financing your campaign?
Well, my wife and I are the biggest contributor. And one lady who passed away a couple of years ago told her husband, Red Hamilton, make sure that Tunis gets back in. So she left, or he gave me a $1,000 check, because I can't argue with the person that's passed away who wanted this to happen. But it was very sincere. I also didn't realize that as your own campaign self-financing, there's a limit to how much you contribute yourself. So those are the only people that have contributed, is myself, my wife, and Joy Hamilton, late Joy Hamilton. And I don't intend to spend very much. You might have seen those signs along the road. Well, they've been there 7 times. They're starting to turn get a little faded on the red side. But I believe in reusing and recycling, and reuse is my favorite. And that's my sign that I've used for the last 7 elections. So I don't spend a lot on signs. Thank you.
Do we need to stop? Are we okay? Okay, good. Thank you. Will you support the establishment of environmental impact assessments as a standard report to be provided to council whenever development applications, including rezonings, OCP amendments, are to be brought forth to council for their consideration?
Thank you. One of the gaps that we have when we talk about, and I mentioned earlier about the Youth for Friday, is data. We haven't really received any accurate data since 2012, something like that. So it's hard to measure how successful we are. But we do know that trees play a huge role in a carbon sequestration. So that's why I believe we need to have more control over trees and make sure that we protect forests and trees and reduce the carbon footprint to begin with. But unless we have the data, it's hard to determine how successful we are and to measure it. And we don't have that capacity. We rely on the province to give us that information. Thank you.
How do you plan to prioritize youth and young families in this community?
Well, thank you. Behind here, there is what they call an Into the Woods daycare, and thanks to our MLA, Adam Walker, who started that project, was very involved in getting the support from the province. It's going to cost a little bit more, a couple $100,000 more than we had anticipated, but it's worth it. Anything worth doing costs. And if we wanted to attract families, and some of you remember maybe 7, 8 years ago when there was talk about closing the high school, of how important it is to attract families. Well, families need good daycare. And this is not just for children 3, 4, but also for toddlers. And so I'm very proud that Councillor Skipsey is working hard with the people who are running this, who are trying to get going to make sure it's a success. The other thing, as I just mentioned, is the skateboard park. And as in the past, Councillor Avis and Councillor Skipsey and Councillor Horner, when he was a councillor, we supported the Air Cadets getting a hangar in Qualicum Beach. Beautiful facility, because I was there doing a review, and Chris Berger, who had his daughter or his son in the program, said to us, we can't afford this anymore. We're killing ourselves fundraising. We got this $140,000 debt that charges 45%, so it's $7,000 a year we have to raise money in car wash and everything. So I asked council if they would agree to pay off that debt, and they can pay us back without interest. And we do the same with the golf club. We did the same with the lawn bowling. So it's really very reasonable to say, we take care of your debt, and you pay us back when you can, and they are paying it back. So these are just some of the examples, plus the skateboard park and the BMX park, that we can do for our children. And they realize when they're wanted or not wanted, and we need to make sure they feel they're wanted in this town. Thank you.
Explain your ways of practicing democracy as a council member.
Well, as mayor, you'd have a lot to do with that, to make sure everybody has equal time allowed to speak. Make sure you acknowledge everybody properly according to the way I used to. When people raise their hands, I used to acknowledge and write down the initials and make sure they get the freedom to speak and as often as they need to. Because in my experience, very few councillors will take advantage of not keeping time like Michael does here. I never had a red sheet or a yellow sheet, Michael, but you're doing a good job with that. So we got to make sure that not just the people at the table, but also the people in the gallery feel confident and comfortable that they're safe that we're in a safe environment where people aren't rolling their eyes and aren't putting frowns on their faces when you say something, but that you listen respectfully. And we can't always agree, there's no question about that. But at least we can listen and actually hear what people are saying and trying to figure out if there's something in there that can be useful to advance our democratic process. And really, the only true democratic process, and Adam probably find that out, we don't have a party whip, we don't have a party position, we're each one on your own. And when you go home at night as a councillor, you're going to have to look in the mirror and say, did I really vote the way I was supposed to, I wanted to, or did I go with the wind, or because somebody was pressuring me? And I would like to say to every councillor, councillor candidate, make sure you feel free to vote the way you want to and that you feel comfortable afterwards. Even if it's not popular, vote the way you really believe you should. Thank you.
Next question. How can you run for public office as mayor if you are being sued for defamation, slander by the town's biggest benefactor?
I'm not going into that question. Obviously, that's for the courts, and that will be decided hopefully soon. Thank you.
Next question. When will Grandin Creek Trail open?
I've asked that myself, you know, and people used to ask me about the Rodway Trail going down by the beach, which had a sign when the previous council was at the table, and it said 2017. And I don't know how many times I had to explain to people that 2017 was a very long year, but it's finally open. Thank you. And so I don't really know the answer. There's a lot of work. It's an incredibly difficult trail to maintain. With all the erosion that's going on, it is a tough job. And we've replaced some of it with aluminum bridges and supports, but it's going to be tough, and we want to make sure it's safe. The one thing I do notice, there's always a black bear there now, so be careful. I've noticed a few times that there was a black bear, and I should, every time I see it, I should phone our bylaw officer or a conservancy to find out what's going on. But it's good for wildlife. I hear owls in there, and there's been other sights of different animals. So for us not to be there, it's inconvenient for some because it's a beautiful trail, but it is a nature trail. And I was told by Neil Daw some time ago that whenever you go into the bush or area like that, 1 out of 10 times you've been observed by a cougar. So it's a beautiful trail, and we're going to reopen it, but it's going to take some extra effort and time to make sure it's safe.
Next question. You spoke very strongly earlier about sticking to the official community plan, but yet you have voted in favor of 3 out of 4 amendments passed this term. Why the change now?
Is there identification? Which amendment?
I don't know.
Because I know there were questions about me supporting the Pheasant Glen Resort, because it was supposed to be a resort. And I was partly involved when we took it out of the ALR. I supported our ALR for the purpose of a tourist destination resort. We needed that. And we still need that. But for a while, it didn't look like it was going to be a resort. This time, with the latest proposal, there's going to be a 40-room lodge and about 60 units for the first phase that are all going to be in the rental pool. And because they were in the rental pool, it didn't require an urban containment boundary change, but it did require an amendment. And I support that. We need that for the business. Qualicum Beach, as I said in my opening comments, was always a very popular destination, a resort for golfing, fishing, and so on. And we were losing a lot of tourist accommodation. So we have to have something to replace that. And I think this was a successful application. We had a lot of feedback over it, a lot of support, some not so much, but I think in the end, I think it was the right decision. As a matter of fact, tomorrow at 12:30 is the groundbreaking to actually see something happen to start being built. As far as the other amendments, unless, you know, my memory is not as good as it used to be, but unless somebody can tell me which ones, I can identify it. Thank you.
Thank you. You say council needs to listen to the community. We have seen that it is very rare all citizens agree what is best or what is needed. How do you decide which citizens to listen to?
All of them. I listen to every one of you. Some of you have become quite a chapter in my book over the years. And we've had our ups and downs, but such is life. And I don't hold grudges. So I've seen people, and my wife and I walk on the street, and they were so angry about the roundabout up by Rupert Road and Memorial. because it was something new. And they tell me, you're going to be tearing that down. In Victoria, had to tear it down. In Edmonton, where we come from, it never works. And I said, I believe it will work. And I think most people would agree that it works. Faye Smith wrote a beautiful piece about why this is the way to go as far as the environment and safety and not having just traffic lights. But some people were very angry. One time I went to a function at the Milner Gardens for a fundraiser for someone, and this lady came up to me and she put a fist right beside me. She says, I'm going to make sure, and I got 500 friends, going to make sure that you'll never get reelected again. And my neighbor, Dr. Peter Quilly, said, ma'am, don't you think it's the wrong place to address our mayor at this point? And she said, and who the hell do you think you are? So anyway, she was very determined to oppose me. But now people are in favor. And Jenny and I walked on the street and people come up and said, I'm sorry about that letter I sent you. And I go, which letter? Oh, I kind of went overboard on my opposition to that roundabout. I said, it's okay. I delete those, I forget those. Don't worry about it. I don't hold grudges. Thank you.
Growth is inevitable for any community, especially with current housing trends across the province. How will you manage this change for Qualicum Beach?
Can you repeat the first part of the question,
Certainly.
please?
Growth
Yeah.
is inevitable for any community, especially with current housing trends across the province. How will you manage this change for Qualicum Beach?
Thank you. Not far from here, just behind the swimming pool, actually, there is a Kiwanis village. And that was a tremendous success for people. It provided truly affordable housing, but it had to be on town land. I don't think any developer with the value of the land that it is today will actually put up some kind of affordable housing project. I think when the zoning gets amended, I think you can negotiate some more amenities and some more low-cost housing. But I think if it's on town-owned land, we have the control. And council has the option, and I've been asking for this for support, and I think Adam remembers that at the beginning of our term, that I wanted to develop the 5-acre piece by the airport, right on the bend, on Bennett Road and Rupert Road, for affordable housing, and work with a nonprofit society to help us do that. We don't have to do that ourselves. We can work with groups that are capable and have a good experience in developing those properties. Then in the back, there's an 8-acre parcel that we bought. That was one of the first things that I was hoping we could do, and we did, was 8 acres for $126,000. It was meant to be for the school bus garage, but they went somewhere else. We can use that. And you know, right next to where I live is Millstream Haven. It's a mobile home park, and it's a strata. People own their own pad. And when you see the replacements now with the new mobile homes, single wide or even and tiny homes, they are quality and they are affordable. So I think as a town, we can take the lead and set precedent by using town-owned lands to accommodate people with lower income. These are not for people who come in for the summer and then take off to Palm Springs in the winter. Thank you.
Given that tenants pay upwards of $2,000 per month for local rental property, how can we justify a 40-year lease of $500 per month for the town property on which the new Fern and Cedar Brew pub is located? Why was town property leased at what is patently far below its real value?
Thank you, it is. And it's very hard to justify. But that was kind of what we call in most development jargon, brownfield. Nothing was happening there. And we wanted to liven up the area for both housing and activity. So when this opportunity came forward, and that was with the previous council, it wasn't this council that did that. The previous council came up with a plan quite different than what has been adopted recently. It involved having a pedestrian-friendly street with 1 story of commercial and 2 stories of residential. And the brew pub was supposed to be like an anchor where people could socialize. The price that we got for the lease is not enough. But after 40 years, that's yours. Not yours, so to speak, but people who live in Qualicum Beach, they will own that in 40 years, no less than that. So it may not be so bad of an investment when you see the price of real estate come up, and I've never seen anybody who invests in real estate in Qualicum Beach lose. So eventually, that building will be yours. So I think if you look at the long term of the activity and the tourists and attracts and visitors that come in, and for our own social gathering, I think it's okay. But it was at a cost. Thank you.
Thank you. Last question. How important is Qualicum Beach's water supply and the condition of the waterfront walkway and parking.
Well, I think I've spoke about the water supply, about the well field at the river, and we need to be concerned about that because if there is any sea level rise and strong winds and tides, there could be saltwater intrusion, so we have to monitor that. And that's why in the fall we actually switched to the Berwick well field, which is near where our fire department is, because the water gets siphoned through, I think, a couple layers of sand, and it's excellent quality water. So we have that. As far as the waterfront itself, we have a plan, and you've seen it in certain areas where people are building on private property at Hickson Crescent, where the owners have built a soft shore approach. And so did the Milner Gardens, actually. If you go to Milner Gardens now, see if you can get down to the very bottom. And because it's hard to see it from when you're walking on the beach, but they've done a tremendous job to have what you call the soft shore approach to protect the waterfront from erosion. So that's our approach. We don't want to build more solid concrete walls, but there are other ways to build reefs out, like with the Faye Smith point, how do you call that? That was our former Brand viewing area, where we had some significant erosion. And the expert, John Reedshaw from SNC Lavalin, came in and said, all you have to do really is build a couple of, they call it reefs, but they call it piles of boulders and rocks a little further off. And what they do is they take the energy out of the wave. The water will still come to the beach, but the energy, the crashing of it will be taken out. And so it's safer for your shore, and it's working. So I think it's taking the soft shore approach was for us the environmentally sensitive thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Tunis. Pat, will you come forward to introduce the candidates? Okay, thank you. Tunis, you're more than welcome to stay up here for the remaining portion or to move.
No, I'm going to go and join my good lady
Okay.
for 40 years. I'm going to sit with her.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Yes, what we're going to do now is give the councillor candidates an opportunity to introduce themselves. And they'll each have 4 minutes to give a little bit about their background and their priorities. And they're going to come up in alphabetical order. So the first one is Stan Beach.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm the new kid on the block, even though I've lived here for 8 years. My wife and I bought a nice little property out here on Garden Road East, and it was a little bit decrepit at the time. It was a foreclosure, and we spent a lot of time cleaning up that property, and it's in the ALR. So we're quite aware of what's happening with ALR land in town, and we're quite aware of, development. And really, I've never stood in front of 400 people for an interview before. It's quite challenging. So I don't have a lot to say right now. I came here to learn from the experts. Some sit on council, but most of them are out here in this audience. And I will spend some time, I don't have much to say right now, but I will spend some time after this meeting outside, and I will try to answer anybody's question. But more importantly, I want to hear what you have to say because you're the experts. And that's all I have to say for now.
Yeah, thank you, Stan. Robert Filmer, who would be next, is had a conflict and was unable to come, and Scott Harrison isn't here either. But so the next person is Peter Kent.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming on such a beautiful day. My name is Peter Kent. Some of you may have remembered that I ran during the by-election. Hopefully you do remember that. A little bit of a Coles Notes on my back history. I was 35 plus years in the film industry. I was also on Squamish Council from 2014 to 2018. where I worked on our official community plan. In fact, we put that together in a record 2 years and won a federal award for doing so with large and fulsome public consultation. I also sat on the library board. I sat on the head of the digital strategy committee, and I sat on numerous committees of the whole as well as acting mayor. So I do have experiences through 4 budget cycles as well as strategic plans. My wife's family actually has been here for over 100 years. The Reeds helped to build the seawall. They had the very first butcher shop, I believe, in town here. They were on the Rotary for forever. My boys are now 5th generation, 13-year-old twins, are now 5th generation Qualicum Beach residents. So after 2018, I came back here with my wife to be closer to the family. My in-laws live here. And I have lived literally everywhere in the world. But this place is amazing. It is a jewel to me. The beaches, the woods, everything that we have here available to us, we are extremely, extremely fortunate. It's basically the Riviera of Canada, some people say, and I tend to agree with that. I feel a need to put myself forward once again for public service, and that's exactly what a councillor is, public service. You're in the chair to do the wishes of the community, and for no other reason. I came from a very cohesive council in Squamish, and I would like to see that again here. I respect transparency, and I expect to listen. This is one thing I think that we've lost sight of over the years, not just through councils, but basically as a community and in the world. I think we've just sort of failed to listen to what people have to say. It's important to me to have public consultation, and public hearings are an extremely important moment where everybody gets a chance to speak. And I think that that's one thing that we should always enforce, is giving everyone their time to speak at public hearings and at public events. When we put our official community plan together in Squamish, we made it a fun moment. And this is something that I'd like to try to bring back here. I think there are some pieces of our official community plan that may need to be revisited. Our community has changed its demographic slightly. Of course, our senior population, like myself, are 56% here now, but we do have our catchments in schools are increasing and have since they have since the last decade now. So we're seeing a lot more younger families coming to town. So all of those things as council that, excuse me, I'm losing track of myself here for a moment. All of those things that council requires of us in public, sorry, all of those things that are required of us in council are things that I have had experience as in my previous council position in Squamish. As Carl Jung, the philosopher, once said, "We are what we do, not what we say." I would like the chance to do for Qualicum Beach, and I look forward to seeing all of you on Tuesday, when perhaps I will have it together a little bit better. I haven't spoken in public for a while. And you can find out more about me at Peter Kent for Qualicum Beach on Facebook. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. Next up is Doreen Mackay-Dunn.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Doreen Mackay-Dunn and I'm running for council. I see many familiar faces in this room and it's so good to see everybody in person. It's been a long time. Thank you all for coming. It's been 4 long years and I have a lot to say in just only 4 minutes. The toxic political environment, it is dividing our community against itself. It reminds me of Abraham Lincoln's speech of 1858, "A house divided against itself cannot stand." Toxic politics must be resolved if we are to move forward. We can't change the past, but we can change the future together. I would like to refer everybody to my card. The yellow part is my platform that I would like to see done in the next 4 years. But right now, I'm going to speak on the back of the card. The toxic political discourse has worsened over the past 4 years, and the top concern for most residents, many feel they have not heard because their phone calls and emails are not answered. There's a general sense of apathy. Many people feel hopeless and helpless. So why bother sending an email? No one responded, or one counselor's responses were nasty, mean, and it traumatized many of our residents. The findings of a recent QBRA survey of its members can be found on the front page of my card. And along with the QBRA executive members, I have attended council meetings, committees of the whole, and mayor coffee meetings. And here are some examples of issues we hear about. Traffic, speeding on 19A. Some areas have been resolved, but not all of them. The street light pollution, affecting our residents' enjoyment of their property. The selling of town land to pay off debt from overspending on nice-to-do projects and not on necessary items as infrastructural renewal. It appears spot zoning is the only zoning. Residents in Qualicum Woods witness the sale of town land and the complete removal of trees. Now all that is left is an empty lot, and you can see it across from Milner's Gardens. The tree and vegetation bylaw has been gathering dust for at least 8 years. The public hearing process is a sham. Residents aren't treated with respect. During this last year, many residents were afraid to speak in case they would be harassed online or in chambers. I remember hearing, "Oh, it's those people again." It appears council's minds are made up before the public hearing and closed to new information from the public. Too many in-camera meetings. In-camera meetings are only for discussion about land, labor, or law, and not to discuss items that should be tabled in public. Personal attacks directed towards the QBRA board members and their spouses are unacceptable. If elected, I will work with whoever is elected. Through my years of nursing, I've learned to be an excellent listener, and I work with others because as a trained nurse, I know how to work as a team. We must work together to get things done. Together we can, alone we will not. I have the skills to heal our community divide. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Doreen. And now John C. Phillips. We think there's a couple of John Phillips in town, so he needs to be identified with C.
Thank you. I will confirm that when I went to register, Heather Svensson said that there were a couple John Phillipses, so I should put the C in, but not that that's a problem for me. Anyways, I'm relatively new to politics. I worked for the government for 28 years, so I guess you could say I have a good understanding. But one of the things that I came here to, my thunder was stolen by our moderator. I'm sort of the epitome of people that come to the area and feel like they're not being heard. And when I was speaking with my neighbors, when I was speaking with other people in the area, they're like, yeah, we wrote a letter, or yeah, we went to this meeting, and it just wasn't acted on or received in any particular manner. And so I did much the same. I spoke in favor of housing and with some amendments, spoke in favor of the OCP, and you could just tell the blank look on faces was just, frustrating. So here I am, stepping in and saying, look, I think I can do a better job than that. I learned over the years to work with many different groups, from cattle brand inspectors to premiers to ecologists in the environmental industry, all sorts of different people, and I have a certain adaptability in that area. I don't have canned speeches, I don't have special knowledge. I am born and bred Vancouver Island boy, born in Nanaimo. My grandparents came to Arrington pre-World War I, and we've been in this area for a long time. But I want to do what seems to be missing, which is to bring back the ability of council to represent the community rather than special interests or particular groups that feel that they are the ones that should be designing how the town looks, how the town acts, how the town behaves, or what they get to work with. Walking around the town, you can see that almost every store has a help wanted sign because they're shutting down or changing their hours just to like Wednesday to Sunday instead of all week. So we need to build attainable housing and work with developers on projects where they cooperate with us rather than rally against us, be it through lawsuits or comments online and that sort of thing. And I think that I can bring that skill set to council of cooperation and collaboration. And so that's why I'm here. Thank you.
And next is Councillor Ann Skipsey.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here on such a beautiful, sunny fall day. I'm Ann Skipsey, and I have a lifetime connection with Qualicum Beach. When my family moved here, there were less than 900 people living here. With well over 9,000 residents now, as you might imagine, I have seen much change. One example I'll share is that I used to play softball right where the entrance to QF is today. What hasn't changed is the charm and the spirit of this community. We are fortunate that over the decades, so many things have been done well here in Qualicum Beach, from the beautification of our walkable uptown to the provision of good, clean drinking water. The very first official community plan was created in the 1970s when my dad was mayor, and it laid out the type of community Qualicum Beach wanted to be. We have opportunity to continue to build on this solid foundation and forward-thinking groundwork. My vision for Qualicum Beach is to preserve the character of our town while moving forward to embrace change, opportunities, and challenges of healthcare services, housing diversity, aging infrastructure, and the local economy. I have a track record of supporting developments aligned with the vision and policies of our citizen-developed OCP. It is important we learn from the past, but also that we are looking to the future and well beyond this 4-year council term to shape and build a Qualicum Beach that we are proud to pass on to future generations. We are experiencing changes to our climate now, so we need to take action now, starting with the implementation of the community's Climate Change Adaptation Plan. For me, this includes prioritizing a robust emergency management program and activating the Urban Forest Master Plan, starting with the Tree and Vegetation Bylaw. I'm excited about the new energy at Town Hall and the depth of knowledge and experience our new Chief Administrative Officer brings to our community. I want to work with her and a new council to improve communications and meaningful public consultation, introduce policies and practices which will improve responsiveness, transparency, and financial accountability, the good governance that you expect at Town Hall. From experience, I know there are times when council and/or the community disagrees, but it is important we remain respectful, willing to explore those differences, as it is usually in compromise where the best solutions lie. My track record of community involvement, my knowledge of local government, my prior service as a town councillor, and most of all, my love of this special place we call Qualicum Beach uniquely qualifies me. I am asking for your vote in this election, either on election day, in the advance voting, or by mail-in ballot. Thank you.
And Petronella Vandervalk next.
Hello, as you just heard, my name is Petronella Vandervalk, and I have been a property owner in Qualicum Beach since 2007 and have lived here permanently since 2016. I've been very involved in the community, having served on the Town Advisory Planning Commission, currently serving on the board of the Qualicum Beach Residents Association, and being a frequent attendee and speaker at many, many council meetings. I am running for council in Qualicum Beach because I love Qualicum Beach. And I feel I can contribute to building a strong and vibrant community while at the same time keeping our unique village character. I believe the way in which we can do this is by respecting the OCP, the Official Community Plan, and its values and intent. The OCP was developed through consultation with the residents of Qualicum Beach and should form the basis of all town planning, be it the type and form of housing, town infrastructure, parklands, urban forests, climate change, mitigation and adaptation plans, and supporting new amenities supporting the quality of life in Qualicum Beach. I strongly believe that while the OCP is not written in stone, that it needs to be respected for its intent. There are innovative ways to achieve solutions to our challenges. For example, in regards to housing, we could look at alternatives such as tiny houses, infill housing, co-ops, or pocket neighborhoods. Building more luxury apartments does not solve the affordability crisis for our local residents and workers. We need to find housing solutions for workers that provide the essential services that keep our town and businesses running. I feel that concern and input from residents has neither been listened to nor valued. Consultation with residents should not be discouraged or dismissed, but rather considered a valuable resource so that well-informed decisions can be made by council. I believe I have the qualifications to do this job and to do it well. I have a degree in urban geography and urban sociology and a degree in architecture. I am not a politician nor a seasoned public speaker, but I am a good listener. I can and will work with others to achieve the best results for the interests of the town of Qualicum Beach. I am recently retired and have the time, energy, and commitment to meet the challenges of councillor in Qualicum Beach. Thank you for coming out today, and I ask for your vote on October 15th. Thank you.
And our last candidate today is Jean Young.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just thrilled to have my last name being at the end of the alphabet, because now I can offer to you everything that all my fellow candidates have offered and said that they're willing to do for you. And I'm going to do more, because I've heard in my store that I'm at daily, whining from our people saying, oh my gosh, council did this, or oh my gosh, it did this, and just not understanding the decisions that's been made. So I'm advocating to have weekly or bi-weekly informal coffee chats right here at the Civic Center with our concerned citizens and with our many professional retired people, to let's have a conversation about why we moved here and what we'd like to go forward with. Because I'm all about bringing your voice to the council table. I'm all about hearing your concerns, doing the research, and getting things done. My background in the last 8 years, I've been an empty nester. So I've been able to be involved in many of our local community offering my service as a board director. And being a board director on many of these societies, it's all about putting an agenda up and getting the things done. And I've been watching the last 4 years. Yes, we're still talking about the need for healthcare and medical doctors and the affordable and available housing. So I'm passionate about getting on council, hearing your concerns, and getting it addressed. I also did write a little speech too. But I was just thrilled that I'm the last one to speak. So I am a longtime resident of Qualicum Beach, and just like you, I care about sustaining and maintaining an economically resilient and an ecologically safe and socially just society. I'm here to hear your concerns, have decisions decided on democratically, in council with transparency and collaboration. I promise to work hard for you and stay true to the values of this unique and exceptional community. And I know I have a retail business, but I look at a council job as a full-time job. I'm going to be out to hear your concerns. I'm going to do the research with you and with reaching out to other professionals to get things done. And I'm very lucky to say that in my retail shop, I have friends and staff that are taking care of the business for me. However, so I won't be there as much, but you can always leave a message there for me or reach me directly by phone or Facebook or email to tell me your concerns and let me get back to you, and we'll have that discussion to get things resolved. Thank you for your time. Thank you for listening to me. And feel free to contact me with your concerns at any time, and thank you for your support.
I would just like to thank you for coming out today. We're going to be finishing up early, which is unusual for these meetings. I hope we accomplished what we wanted to do with this, and that is to give you an opportunity to meet some new faces and some familiar faces before you make your voting decision. This is the first of an all candidates meeting. There'll be other opportunities for you to meet and listen to the candidates beginning on Tuesday in the same place. So thank you again. Thank you for being polite. I think it was a good meeting. I hope you share that feeling. Thank you.